CPI numbers were released this morning and they beat expectations. Inflation is higher than what they anticipated. No big surprise for us, right? We've been to the grocery store. We've been to the gas station. We've been living in this economy. But what does this mean for the price of precious metals? I have what is probably a non-orthodox view of where we are right now with the precious metals. It's good. And I want to share it with you in this video. Let's get started right now. The Consumer Price Index, we'll say that in the fancy way. The CPI was above 9%. Expectations were 8.8%. I just want to point something out real quickly to Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell. Remember, inflation was going to be transitory. Bear that in mind when you listen to anything that comes out of our government, the Treasury, or the Federal Reserve. Enough on that. Let's also remember that these numbers, the Consumer Price Index, aren't even accurate. If we measured inflation the same way we did back in the 70s and 80s, we'd probably have inflation close to 15 or 20%. There's a guy has a website called Shadow Stats that calculates it the old way, and it's just astounding. And again, we know we're living in this economy. And finally, remember, these are old statistics, right? These were June numbers, right? And they're inaccurate to begin with. So, even though the market puts a lot of weight on these are old numbers, inaccurate numbers, but they still affect the price of precious metals. And precious metal investors, mining stock investors, have been frustrated over the last year because inflation, remember, inflation is good for precious metals and the precious metal mining stocks. But all three have been clobbered over the last year, 3 months, whatever time period you want to look at. I'm starting to get the feeling that this inflation is good for precious metals narrative is going to become a little more mainstream. And we've gotten to a point because, now put your thinking cap on here. I know you guys are smart and you already know this, but let's review. The reason gold and silver and the mining stocks have been clobbered is because with high inflation, that gives the Fed open door, carte blanche to raise rates and be uber hawkish, and we're going to fight inflation. And we all know that's all a bunch of BS. But nonetheless, that's the narrative that presses down on the price of the metals. At what point do we hit a tipping point, right? Like where at some point people say, well, yeah, but still we have high inflation. Still, no matter what you say about the Fed and them, barely raising rates to keep up with inflation, we still have inflation. And I feel like, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but that doesn't hurt. I feel like we're getting to that equilibrium point, that tipping point where the market is going to start to realize, like, regardless of the fact that the Fed is going to be hawkish, and they're not even going to be hawkish enough to really fight inflation. We all know that. We still have the inflation, and that is good for the price of precious metals. And I know your time's valuable. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for joining me here in the basement. You're always 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Welcome here in Ron's basement. You can subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, turn on bell notifications to get alerted every time I put out a new video. I want to reiterate one more time. At what point does the balance shift? At what point does the pendulum swing to recognition in the market that, oh, we forgot inflation is actually good for the price of precious metals? We're waiting for that day. Big party here in Ron's basement when gold goes above $2,000 for good, silver above $30 for good. You'll all be invited. And one final thing I need to address. I shared with you, that's the gold bear. That's the bear market in gold and silver. I captured him. I've been getting a lot of comments from viewers. Thank you very much. And actually, I have a viewer from Australia who's sending over in like an Outback cowboy hat, from what I understand, that I'm going to put on him. And I want to extend that invitation to all of you. If you have something, a piece of clothing or anything that you'd like me to put on the bear during a video, send me an email. We'll get it shipped here. I'll put it on the bear, and you can see it right here live in Ron's basement. Hey, thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great day, and until next time, you be well.